What's up, everybody? This is Damron with Trash Ass Gamers, bringing you another Elder Scrolls Online Veteran Dungeon Guide. This is for Darkshade Caverns 2. Darkshade Caverns 2 is found in Deshawn. That's a region in the Ebonheart Pact. This is not too bad of a dungeon. There are a few bosses that can be a little bit tricky, including the last boss, but overall it's not too bad. I will keep these dungeon playthroughs complete as always. I'll fast forward through the ads, but I want to make sure everyone knows where I'm at, how I got there, and we'll focus mainly on boss strategies or anything throughout the dungeon that could trip you up. So the first boss we're gonna come up to right here is the fallen Foreman. He's not gonna give you too much trouble, although we had a couple problems here of him resetting because the tank was running up onto that hill there, and you'll see he actually resets a couple times. This tank actually gave us a little bit of trouble a couple times throughout the dungeon, but you know, we made it through. This isn't too difficult of a fight. The only real attack that you need to worry about from the fallen Foreman is when he puts his, staff in the air and he'll kind of blow flames like a flamethrower out, and he'll spin it around in a circle. Now, if you're walking in the same direction of that flame, that can cause serious damage, especially if you're a vampire high stage. Then that can do a lot of damage. Good thing is it doesn't really have a far extension from his body, and if you walk in the opposite direction of the flame, you'll be out of the attack pretty quickly. He doesn't have much health, and he doesn't really do much damage otherwise, so as long as you just kind of keep him in the middle here and take him down, ideally you want the tank to pull the aggro of all the adds in that enemy to the middle so you can take them all out together. You'll see throughout the dungeon a little bit, we had a little bit of problems of him kind of grouping the adds on to where we needed to kill them, but that's okay. We made it through, and just finish him off, and we'll see you at the next boss. Yeah, and don't be a scrub like me. Make sure your food's active and your things are repaired and you're set to go in a veteran dungeon. I think my food had run out there, so make sure you're all set to run veteran dungeons. Alright, so after you kill those adds, you're going to come across the next boss, which is the Transmuted Hive Lord, and he has two draining scribs that are with him. Now, ideally the tank would kind of pull the aggro of all of them and just stack them on top of each other, and then you're not going to have the problems that we had of these scribs knocking us down and basically slowing down the DPS. But the tank can hold on to the main guy, and he's not going to do too much damage that you're going to have to worry about. But as you can see, these scribs kept knocking me down and slowing down my DPS. That was kind of annoying. So if you're a tank, try to grab their attention if you can. He will do kind of this ground and pound attack that will cause some damage on the ground, but very minimal. If you have a decent healer, you're going to be able to heal through that basically no problem. When he does that, the scribs will go underground and you don't have to worry about him. But overall, this is a pretty basic fight. He's not going to really cause too much damage that's going to get your health into a critical situation, especially if you have a good healer. You can really just kind of stand here and smash his health down. So do that, send him back to the abyss, and we'll see you at the next boss. Alright, next up is the Transmuted Ale, or Transmuted Alets, I guess would probably be more proper. So there's 3 of them, and their health is loosely tied together. Now what you ideally want to do is have the tank kind of pull them up on the stairs there, keep them really tightly grouped, drop your AoEs as DPS, and then kind of cycle your burst damage among them. So hit one for a little bit, hit another one for a little bit, hit the third one for a little bit, and kind of go around in a circle. The reason for that is that you need to kill all these relatively at the same time. If you kill one in a significantly more time that the others are still alive, then a new Alet will come into the fight and will replace the one that you killed. So they all 3 need to be dead relatively within a short period of time to end the fight. So try to make that the very first part, because if you have one come in, then the health is usually a little offset from what the other 2 are, and then you end up in the same situation. One of the other ones dies, and then that gets replaced. So make sure you kind of do this right off the bat. Take all of them down kind of equally and get them all killed, so you don't have to worry about that. Other than that, it's very simple. They don't really do much damage. The tank can hold aggro of all 3. They do some pretty basic attacks with, biting him, but they don't really cause much damage at all. A healer's going to be able to protect you through all of this. So right down the hill from the Transmuted Alet is Growball the Transmuted, to continue our Transmuted dungeon boss names. So he or she, this Nech, I don't know, he's not too bad, probably a she, spawns in all these little Nechlings. The thing about this that's different than obviously Darkshade Caverns 1 is the Nechlings, but also you can't do damage, well you can, but very minimally, damage to the main boss until you stun her, essentially. And to stun her you need to kill all the Nechlings. Once you kill enough of them, which they will continue to keep spawning into the map, she'll get stunned, and that's the point at which you could damage her. Now, this was also an area where a tank can really bring all these guys together and kind of keep them on the boss. That way you can just lay down AoEs and but here everything's kind of spread out, so it's not really the ideal situation, because then when he does get stunned, everybody's kind of far away and you don't get really a good damage run on the boss while the boss is stunned. So you only took 20% off there. Ideally you want to take at least 33 off each time and really only take 2 rotations. If you run it with some self-sustain, 3 DPS, you can actually kill her in 2 stuns. So the tank could have done a little better of a job kind of keeping everything together, but that's okay. It just kind of made the fight a little bit longer. But the damage from the Nechlings and from the main boss is really not too much to worry about. If you are running with the healer, they could keep you healed through all that pretty easily. But like I said, ideally, if everything was grouped together, your AoEs are killing these Nechlings, and then when the boss gets stunned, your AoEs are already hitting him, and you can go straight into the burst spam attacks. But in this situation, you'll see when they get stunned, we gotta kind of run over there, cast our AoEs, and then try to get as much burst in as we can. So that can be done a little bit smoother. But that's basically the gist of this fight. So we'll finish up this boss, and we'll see you at the last boss. Alright, so here we are coming up on the final boss. I do want to point in that if you attack this boss prior to everyone going through that door, it will lock out who hasn't gone through the door. So make sure everybody's through the door before you begin your assault with the Engine Guardian. So the Engine Guardian, I mean, this boss used to be much harder than it is nowadays, but he has sort of three phases. One is his fire phase, which he, does this circular flamethrower attack that's really easily dodgeable. Really, you just got to stay out of the way of it. And then the other portion to the fight is the poison. And that's what the levers in the center of the room come into play, because if you pull a lever, then you can stop the poison. And hard mode, there is no scroll for this room if you noticed. Hard mode is simply beating this boss without using a lever. So it's actually pretty easy if you have a healer, because the healer can really negate all the damage that you're taking from the poison as well as the fire. And another phase that he does is his lightning phase, and he doesn't seem to do that as often, I feel, but in the lightning phase he'll do these bursts of lightning damage that just kind of strike you from the air, and it's hard really to avoid that. Alright, so another thing that the Engine Guardian do, well, basically he just kind of walks around in this giant circle. Sometimes he'll change directions. So that kind of makes it difficult really to lay down AoEs that really can do significant damage worth the casting cost. I tend to keep casting it anyway because I have a memorized rotation. But if you're going to cast him whenever he's in this kind of momentary stationary position. You're going to get the most benefit out of that. This boss is really dependent on a good healer. If you have a good healer that can heal you through the poison, heal you through the ads shooting their ranged attacks at you, and heal you through the flame damage basically that he shoots out, then you can stay near him and continue to do the damage and not really worry about all the things that can damage you. This fight is much harder without a healer, in my opinion. So for this dungeon, I recommend definitely bringing a healer in here. It's going to make your life easier. So let's go ahead and finish up this mechanical beast, and we will talk about the monster set at the end. Alright, so not too bad of a dungeon really. This dungeon used to give people a much harder time back in the day, but not too bad. So the monster set that comes out of here is the Engine Guardian set, which the first part's going to give you health recovery, and the second part's going to give you a 10% chance to summon an automation. So that can restore health, stamina, or magic every half second for 6.5 seconds. So honestly, this is not a set that is commonly used. Basically, you're going to get your recovery from other methods. So if this guide helped you out, feel free to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.